Right about now, the San Francisco 49ers are reeling, all but done with the playoffs. And I just got one question. What still matters? We are here. We are here. Welcome to the Coach's Huddle, where the field meets family. It's your boy, the Coach, and we are with our weekly installment of the Faithful Review. And I'm here with my guy, Tom Jensen. How are you doing today, Tom?
Doing okay, Coach. Tough night, but just roll with the punches and move on.
Gotta roll with the punches. Can't cry about it. You know what I'm saying? You can't be upset. Can't talk about our window being closed and possibly a dynasty and multiple players being hurt and just get your Tom. What's going on? It's all falling apart, Tom. What are we gonna do? You know, it's ridiculous, Tom. It's ridiculous. So I mean, look, man. Right now, we're not having the season that we would have hoped for. You know, the cat's out the bag. Not only have we had multiple losses, but we've had multiple losses on national stages. So not only are we losing, but the entire NFL sees this. You know, there's some guys right now that are absolutely cooked. Guys on our team that just are showing their true colors. And speaking of showing your true colors, Campbell, get over here. All right, it's time, bro. You know, I've been real nice, Tom. I've been sitting back, you know, letting the season play out, talking about certain guys, but, you know, there's a limit. There's a limit. And when you talk about, you know, what's been happening throughout the season, you know, I've been hard on a lot of guys. I've been hard on Deebo Samuel. I've been hard on Aaron Banks, Jake Brindle. All right. I've been hard on Malik Collins. You know, don't get me started on any type of receiver that I've been giving it to everybody. Pause. No Diddy. But it is time to really lay into one Devondre Campbell. Sir, let's just build the topic first because we got time. After refusing to play in a crucial game and being cut soon after, Devondre Campbell's saga leaves a sour note. What does this situation reveal about team dynamics, leadership, and decision-making? Did the 49ers ignore warning signs before bringing him into the fold? And the reason why I preface the conversation this way is because Devondre Campbell is a bum. We already know that. That's not news, okay? Devondre Campbell thinks he's better than he is. That's not news. That's not news. Devondre Campbell isn't anywhere near the type of player that Dre Greenlaw is. That's not news, okay? The issue is that we had a fox in the fucking hen house. We had a guy that was on our team that we all knew didn't deserve to be there, shouldn't have been on the field, but yet he passed regulation. What are we doing moving forward? And what has a player like Devondre Campbell taught us? Because I got news for you. The first Devondre Campbell, all right, was already on this team. You know who his name was, Tom? Chase Young. That was the first Devondre Campbell that was on this team last year. And what did we do? We swept that shit under the rug. We moved on from it. We said, okay, we just brought him on. We got effort issues. He's walking on the field, but hey, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. We got enough ball players on the team. But having guys like Devondre Campbell is not a football issue. It's a culture issue. What have we learned moving forward so we never have a bozo like that wear our uniform?
Has to start with vetting the player and his character. What's his football character in addition to his character as a person? It's something you have to evaluate. With Campbell, I would say, okay, they tried to get Eric Kendricks and he bailed and went to Dallas, and so the Niners had to scrape the barrel, and so they ended up with Campbell. Beggars can't be choosers kind of a situation. But you also have to know that Campbell has a history of bailing out, and that he's also, like Chase Young, somebody who thinks his game is bigger than it is. Another factor that isn't being reported but should be, before the game, he had this tweet. Someone is about to get a great football player that's been badly misused. Oh, well, let's get it, though. He had already chosen then that he was going to do this. And if the Niners had somebody watching social media, they would have flagged it and said, Johnny Holland, you need to go talk to this guy. You've got 90 minutes before kickoff to make active, inactive decisions. They needed to intercept Devondre Campbell before then. They didn't. And these are the kinds of granular details the Niners miss.
And that's why I love you, Tom. It's because we could sit back and be shocked like everybody else, right? And say, oh my God, an NFL player who doesn't want to play, who's making millions of dollars. That's surface stuff. That's on the surface. The real problem is that we needed another linebacker when Dre Greenlaw went out to help us get out of nickel, to help stop the run on that last drive. And we didn't have anybody because Devondre Campbell left us in the fucking lurch. Bum. That's the problem. The problem is that we could have won this game or maybe been the possibility of winning if somebody would have been paying attention to the fact that this bozo was going to pull a caper at the altar. Ultimately selfish.
Very.
All right? You can be stupid on your own time. Exactly. All right? You could be dumb on your own time. You should have spoke up and been stupid, but at least you would have been a man and said, hey, man, I don't want to play. I feel a certain way. You need to call up another linebacker. You need to get somebody else ready to go because I'm not playing if you guys call me, if Dre Greenlaw gets to start over me. That would have been dumb, but at least I would have respected you. But you wait until you get on the field? You wait until you perfectly lined us up. You didn't just speak your piece. You were vindictive, you female. You were vindictive. Your feelings was hurt. You was emotional. So instead of speaking up and just saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to be on this team. I'm not rocking with how things are going. You guys going without me. You wanted to hurt us. That's what you did, Devondre Campbell. We don't care if you don't want to play. We don't care if you want to play. You don't want to play? Fuck you. Go. We don't need you. But you laid in the grass like a snake while the bullets were flying. At the very moment when we needed you. And you left us in the lurch. Who the fuck are you, Scar? Like, what is his problem? He will never play in the NFL again because of this move. Never.
So. Yeah. Well, if you're a coach, why would you ever trust this guy after this?
Yeah.
You can prove that not only did he do this, it was premeditated to cause maximum damage. He knew coming into the game that's what he wanted to do. The tweet before the game proves that. He's already saying someone is about to get a great football player, meaning I'm not going to be a Niner after this game.
Yeah.
He knew. He knew. And the
Yeah.
Niners didn't follow up on that. So partially, you've got to go after Campbell and say, this is the most immature thing I've seen. But beyond that, the Niners need to pay attention to social media to flag this stuff,
Yeah.
because this can be the difference in winning or losing a game. Is if you can make Campbell inactive before the game, at least you can deal with this. And you knew coming into the game that Dre, at the very least, was probably going to be on a pitch count, so you were going to need linebackers later in the game anyway.
Yeah.
So why aren't you doing that?
Yeah, that's what hurts us. That's what we've learned. We've learned again, time and time again throughout the season, that we just haven't been as focused as we need to be moving forward. Social media matters in today's day and age. All right. You got to have somebody there who's if you can make sure that fans have seating arrangements at camp, you can have somebody watching social media.
Exactly.
I mean, make it make sense, Tom. You're worried about the wrong thing. All right?
Well, yeah.
Come on now. If y'all could be worried about nobody knowing anything, then you can at least, if you're worried about what's going out, then you should be worried about what's coming in. You got to look at social media for the players. The man all but said on social media, I ain't playing. And I got something for y'all. As soon as I'm ready to get this bullet got one gun. I mean, this gun got one bullet. And I'm gonna wait. And I'm gonna shoot it. Again, another missed opportunity. So I mean, hey, I'm done talking about cuz,
Yeah.
it was a
It's
lane.
over. But they need to learn from this. They need to adjust. You have to vet these guys.
Yeah.
Character in football, character in history. You need to know all of it. And even if he might be the best available player, the character can say, you know what, we're better off going with somebody that's maybe a lesser talent, but somebody we can count on.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what? This was a topic that came up on the four-man front, but Big Dez brings it up here. This proves that some of the guys we've lost over the past few seasons have really hurt us, especially the GM to DC, Adam Peters. Yes.
Yeah.
Adam Peters not being here has hurt us. We are slower when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to project management things throughout the offseason. We were late on hiring a DC. We were late on free agency getting guys in the room. We were late on getting guys signed, right? The Niners were a day late and $1 short this entire offseason. And you got to understand that some of those jobs, some of those things that grease the wheels of progression, so to speak, come from a guy like Adam Peters. Right. And they got to figure out. I mean, do they know what they've lost? Because if you don't know what you lost, it's hard for you to replace it or to even know you need to.
Well, there needs to be an inventory of what skills do we have in the building and what don't we have.
Yeah.
And they need to say, okay, Peters had this. Have we replaced those skill sets?
Mm-hmm.
Or people that worked for him have these skill sets. What can they do? So things like missing the social media post from Devondre Campbell, that's something that you can deal with organizationally, but you have to take an inventory of your assets and say, what do and don't we have, and adjust. I'm not sure they've done that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, that's something that they need to do. They need to think about it. Yeah. Easy Tino says Peters is killing it in DC. Dog, he is the mayor out here, bro. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm out here right now. Adam Peters can't pay for parking out here. He can't. He is the mayor out here. I'm telling you, they love him out here. He's really kind of put his footprint out here in the city, and he's definitely a welcome guy. So, hey, moving on. Devondre Campbell, sayonara. It's been real. You know what I'm saying? But I'm glad that we got rid of you, because we saw it in camp. We saw it day one when we got him. All of the tweets. I mean, we already knew exactly what type of dude he was. So let's just move on. It is what it is. Sayonara, Devondre Campbell. So moving into our next topic, let's get into Niners-Rams fallout and what happens next. So Niners lose 12-6 to the Rams. And the 49ers later match up with the Rams, We revealed plenty of strengths and weaknesses. What did this game confirm about the team? What questions remain unanswered as the season progresses? So I'll tell you right now, Tom, it was so good to see the defense play the way they did yesterday. I mean, God.
Dre was on
Dre.
fire. Love that. Love it.
Ooh, man, dog. I seen Dre feel, man, he filled on like a 3rd and 3, and like the right tackle washed Nick down, and it was just an open gap. And like, dude, he closed that thing so fast. Oh, it was infectious, dude. Like, if just a sample size of what we saw out of Dre for what would you say, 2.5 quarters we saw him play hard?
Yeah, if that.
Man, if they don't sign that dude,
They have to.
They gotta sign him. Bro, Fred plays faster with more confidence. The pass rush was teeing off. Bro, DB's flying all over the place. Dog, Malik Mustafa hasn't even played with Dre yet. Oh my God. Wait until Malik gets on the field with Dre. Oh my goodness. And Huff
played well.
Man, I'm still in this take for Marco Martinez because Marco is my dog. So Marco, I'm citing you right now. We owe Talanoa Hufanga a ton of apology for how much we have been going in saying, well, Huff isn't the same guy. He necessarily wasn't as athletic as he was before he got hurt. Not necessarily a speed guy. Dog, the angles, the tackling, the sure tackling, okay? We have not seen tackling like that on a consistent level in months.
Since Dre last played.
Man, I'm telling you, flying to the ball, gang tackling. Before this game, I'll tell you right now, I watched some of the game back. Tom, this game, defensively, I have not seen that much gang tackling on our defense than we did in previous games earlier in the year. I'm telling you, this game, Hannibal, get out of here. This game was amazing defensively. I mean, if you just look at what they've done, you look into the Rams being the number 7th overall offense, all right? And you see that they were 39% on 3rd downs. Matt Stafford only threw for less than 200 yards. All right. The Rams only had 6 first downs in the entire 6 first downs, 6 first passing downs, 8 first rushing downs. Like, Tom, I mean, now we got to be honest. This is a team that was a little ripe. Pause. Okay. They were, but they played a really tough game against the Buffalo Bills. So we weren't exactly getting a really fresh team, but they're much healthier than we were.
Yeah.
So,
but it still takes a lot out to play a game like that and then come back on short rest. That's hard to do. Is that back-to-back is a killer. So give them credit for having the energy they needed and the game plan that was necessary. It was just, we're just going to feed Kyren Williams until he can't go anymore. We're just going to keep running the ball, and then we're going to pick our spots. And when the rain lets up in the second half, we're going to start throwing. They did the smart stuff. They did what they had to do. Meanwhile, what do the Niners do? Kyle says, okay. Deebo says he's struggling. He just needs the ball. Here you go, Deebo, my buddy, my friend, my pal. 9 touches, 19 yards. When is this going to be something where Kyle is thrown on the carpet and said, look, dude, your buddy's done. And the more that you keep doing this, the more you're going to get fired in a year. Stop it. And whether he does that or not, I don't know. But I hope that this game is used in the future as something that needs to be held against Shanahan. With the season on the line, he fed Deebo. That's the wrong choice. You don't put your friend ahead of your team when you're the head coach, period.
All right, man. So look, Tyshawn is the jury's out. All right. He's washed. All right. It is what it is. Like, and for me, if you watched the live watch party, which I know you did, Tom, he doesn't deserve the touches anymore. He doesn't. And for context, let's really talk about it. Football's a meritocracy. Okay. So the best guy, the best morally, aligned guy isn't the guy who gets the most, attention. It's the top dog, the guy with the most ability. That's football. Okay. So for a long time, or in a period of time, meritocracy ran the show. Deebo was the apex predator on the offense. That's just what it was. And he garnered attention. It is what it is. The reason why they put up with A.J. Brown's antics in Philly while they're winning is because they don't have any receivers that's as close to what he can do. Period. That's just what it is. Yeah. The moment A.J. Brown loses an inch of that ability, they are not putting up with that shit in Philly. That's just what it is. You put up with the guy who can produce. And sometimes you get lucky and your best guy happens to be your best character guy. And then it works out. But it always doesn't work out that way. All right. And for us, it hasn't worked out that way. One of our best guys isn't nearly our best character guy. Okay. And one thing that we've put up with is that we've made the agreement to say, all right, cool. We'll let you do the boombox. We'll put a C on your chest. All right. We'll ignore the fact that you come in out of shape every year. We'll ignore the fact that you don't do anything outside of when you get the ball. You don't block well. You don't run hard. We'll ignore the fact about you putting your hands on teammates. We'll ignore all of that. As long as you get the ball and you turn into Deebo, right? But I ain't seen Deebo in like 8 months, 9 months, if that. You know what I mean? Like it's for real, Tyshawn. So for me, I just think that what he did offensively, 9 touches for 19 yards. I mean, come on, man. 2 carries for 3 yards, averaging 1.5 carries, 1.5 yards a carry. 3 receptions for 16 yards, 5.3. Then the drop on third. Oh my God, the drop on third down that killed the drive. Then the offsides, right? Missing blocks. Like, come on. And then, the runs out of shotgun from the backfield, bro, that stuff is done. Okay? It's over. That's one thing that I feel like we all saw against the Rams game is that I don't care what they do with Deebo moving forward in the rest of these 3 games, because this was the game that you had to have it. This was the game. All right? Not against Miami. Nobody cares about that game. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about this was a divisional game for the season. This is the game that you care about. All right. The same way that you talked all that shit, geared up to go see Philly the very next year, just as much. All right. And they didn't perform. Him specifically. And I'm a little disappointed in Kyle for leaning into him so much. I don't get the affinity. I understand that Kyle, he likened Christian to his blankie or his his easy button in his offense, which is fine. If you want to manipulate a defense and you think you can have a guy that could just turn something into anything, but the time of just giving Deebo the ball organically behind the line of scrimmage is over. Slip screens, he doesn't have the acceleration to be able to get off the field just off of just catching the ball, even on the move. Right about now, I haven't seen anything from him out of the route tree that's remotely dangerous. And then on top of that, now we got his hands are, average at best. He's not separating from anybody. Then when he doesn't have the ball, he's not a willing blocker, even an effective blocker. And then now he's starting to actually understand that he's washed. And he's got the yips. Now he can't stay on sides. He can't do anything. So And then all at the tune at $28 million a year. I can't stand it, Tom.
Me either, Coach. I just you have to know that at some point a threshold has been crossed. That from this point forward, Deebo is done, and Kyle needs to recognize that. If he didn't recognize that before this game, he has to know that now, and you have to adjust accordingly. That look, your plays for Deebo don't work, and he doesn't have it anymore. Now you can have any number of reasons to have allegiance and trust in Deebo, but it has to be a two-way street here. He has to deliver. You put the season on the line, you put the season in Deebo's hands, and he dropped it. And so at what point are you going to adjust your thinking to say, okay, he's done? And now the question becomes, all right, can you, as de facto GM, get rid of Deebo Samuel and Kyle Juszczyk?
Whoa.
And if you can't,
check out the topics, Tom. You're jumping ahead in topics.
Okay, well. Okay, sorry. Nonetheless.
Tom!
Preview of coming attractions. Okay.
Sniping the topics, man. Come on, Tom.
Okay, sorry. My bad, Coach. My bad. All right, so it's just that has to be a consideration going forward.
Right.
Kyle needs to adjust.
Yeah.
And so that's part of all this. But beyond that, you also have to look at Purdy, and I know that we've got a Purdy contract later, so I won't talk about that either. But we've got all of those things have to be addressed.
Yes.
And can they do that is an open question. That's a problem. That's a real problem.
Well, we've got a lot of them. And speaking into the next would-be problem is our next topic. So let's get into it. Must-have defenders for 2024. What positions should the 49ers prioritize in the offseason? Should they focus? No. After finally seeing Talanoa Hufanga, Chafarius Mooney-Ward, and Dre Greenlaw together, their impact is undeniable. However, all three are entering free agency or facing contracts decisions soon. How critical is it for the 49ers to prioritize keeping them? Can the team afford to retain all three? So,
no.
We know that. So, no, they can't afford to keep all three. But that's what it was yesterday. I don't want to just say it was all Dre Greenlaw, but I think that they play well together. That's pretty much the common denominator, the overarching theme that spoke to me the most about seeing our defense play yesterday is that they play very well together. And I know that they look like they were having fun. They were playing so free, like I've watched games where the defense is playing hard, but you see like they're laboring to put out that effort, right? Fred Warner's got his hands on his hips. Guys are tired. Dudes are slowly getting off the ground. They're arguing about would-be passes that shouldn't have been caught. The Bimba don't break defense is really just about mindset. Right? If you really believe that you have the right guys on the field, you can bend as much, but when you break, it's, it can be a win. Like, we finally won. We stood tall and we have the reserve of our defense that's shown through. It's almost like gambling on the resolve of your teammates. But when you don't believe in your defense and you bend but don't break, but let's say you win, it's almost kind of like walking out of the casino and winning 100, but you could have won 10. It's like you're happy that you got it, but you're like, man, when I'm worried about the next drive. You can't even enjoy it because you know that there was some type of process that the offense didn't get right as to why you didn't get scored on versus you being a good defense. Early on in this defense, come on, man. Talanoa Hufanga would-be picks. Filling the gap, tackling in the backfield, playing with blurred vision, angles. We are woefully bad at safety. Jair Brown has regressed. That's a fact. Badly. He has regressed. And that's kind of like, honestly, he's kind of been on Devondre Campbell type levels, if you really want to keep it tall. You know what I'm saying? Like
he's targeted.
Oh my God, he's been picked on, Tom. And for me, I just feel as though that there's got to be some way that the Niners can kind of get these guys corralled and talk in some type of fashion about bringing it back. I know that Mooney Ward really likes this area and he wants stability. He doesn't necessarily want to leave, but he also wants to get paid.
Sure.
But you never know about the ego or the confidence rather of a player. When Mooney first got here, he was rather young. And he had kind of left an organization in the Chiefs where they kind of Trent McDuffied him, let him know like we don't think you as good as you think you are. We can go get another one. And he came over here with a little bit of a bruised ego, and he would talk about him being the number one corner in the league, you know. But you think differently about your organization when they backed you in tough times, right? Where you really feel like you got a family and you're insulated and you have somebody that's going to protect you and tell you. We don't know how much social currency we gained as an organization with Mooney, with how much class we gave him and patience we gave him with dealing with his off field situation with his daughter, right? You never
And it,
know.
and it was the right thing to do.
And it was the right thing to exactly, right? But it's conversations are different, you know, once it's
Yeah.
saying like, all right, you guys kind of understand the infrastructure of my family. I love playing here. I know the defense. I understand the coaches. Kyle believes in me. You know, uh, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. And I feel as though that there's silver linings to a season like this if they all stay together, right? If they all stay together, I feel as though that they'll be a little bit closer coming into next year. And some of these contracts, how can Dre think about it? How can Dre say, you know, essentially, for lack of a better term, fuck you, pay me, after how much the Niners have backed him through this injury, right? And been there for him, made sure he pays through. You know, when it's time for him to get paid, I'm sure the Niners will look out for him, you know, but I don't feel it's I feel as though that contract negotiations and getting guys back in the building is a lot harder coming off of Super Bowl losses and lofty expectations versus coming off of a much more humbling year where you've kind of set expectations, right? And you're saying to yourself, look, man, you struggled just like we struggled. Let's make a deal. You know, you want a
Yeah.
career or you just want to go, you know, hunt for a bag? What do you think?
Well, I think that there's a lot to be said for the family dynamic that the Niners and the locker room showed in supporting Mooney Ward and what he went through,
Mm-hmm.
and in supporting Dre as well. And I would hope that that leads to a willingness on both sides to work together and say, "You're a key part not just of our team, but the family we have. We
Mm-hmm.
want you to continue to be a part of that." So that can factor in. But at the same time, the money still needs to be enough. You still need to pay market rate salary to keep these guys. They're not just going to give money away to be part of a family. So you're going to have to take care of Dre. And you saw last night just how important Dre is. That the sum of the parts is not what this team can be when they have Dre Greenlaw. It's more. Their
Mm-hmm.
production goes up. He injects this team with an energy, with the velocity, with the violence that inspires all of them to play better ball.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what Fred Warner has, a season high 15 tackles. It's not a coincidence that happened in the game when Dre Greenlaw came back.
Mm-hmm.
Dre has a multiplier effect. They've got to keep him. Hufunga, I think that he helps their way of just gathering and communicating and playing as a unit. That they play better collectively
Mm-hmm.
when Hufunga's on the field. But that's a skill that you can find in other players. That's a skill you can find in rookies. Look at Mustafa. So the question becomes with Talanoa, what is your asking price? Is it going to factor in that you've been hurt? Is it going to factor in that you're not the player you once were in your all pro season? We still want to keep you, but he can be replaced in the free agent market. There's free agents they can go after that can provide similar things. So it
Mhm.
depends on Hufunga's willingness and his money. With Ward, I think it's going to be really hard because at his best, he's a top 10 DB, but he's 29, and that's when DBs start falling off, and you can't pay for past production. I mean, that's the mistake they made with McCaffrey. That's not a mistake they can repeat with Ward. So I think that they're probably going to have to let Mooney go. That'll be a hard thing to do, but I think they'll probably have to do it. And given that Green has looked so good, that you've already got 2/3 of the DBs that you need for next year, you just need one more. You don't need a DB1. You just need a solid cover guy. And you can get that in free agency or the draft. So I think that's the route they're going to go.
Yeah. Mooney, I feel like Mooney might be gone. That's the one that if I had to choose between keeping two of the three, Mooney will be the guy that's just seems to make more sense. That would move on. For me, Dre is priority number one, in my opinion. And Huff is right behind him. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm getting recency bias, but they look so good yesterday. They played so free. They had a ton of fun. I haven't seen them have this much fun. Like, like,
Yeah, it was joyful.
yeah, like the confidence. Who I felt really good for? Fred.
Absolutely.
Fred has been holding it down all season. It felt good to see Fred play with his ears pinned back. You can see that he kind of played with no responsibility, so to speak, yesterday, and he had his dog back. I mean, it was fun. For me, it just goes to show that this team is far from just a bad team. We got a lot of good bones on this team. There's a lot of guys that we need to keep, but also a lot of guys who we need to let go. And possibly, if they don't get let go, they need to take a pay cut, and that's going to be our next topic. But before we do that, let's get into a couple of super chats. So Travis Stewart, thanks, Trav. Oh, and Trav, I got your email, bro. I'm gonna hit you back. Trav, 199. It's the Greenlaw effect. Can't we all call tomorrow? Can't we call tomorrow? What are we talking about? I don't know, Trav. I don't know. I love you though, bro. Jay, 999. Our D line used to keep teams up at night. We need to draft speed on offense, especially if we're going to keep Brock. But even then, he might underthrow them. They should wait a year before paying him. All right. So one thing I'll deal with this is that I love this comment. We do need speed. One thing that I will say, as much love as that I've been giving the defense, we need to be able to get some sacks, man. Like Matt Stafford did not get sacked yesterday. That's a problem. We got to get some more pass rush. We definitely need some more D linemen. I'm thinking first round, just the trenches, man. We spend so much time on skill guys. We have them. Let them age, but the trenches, man. It's time for us to go after the trenches this offseason and this draft.
Well, and that's what this draft provides. The first round in this draft is edges and defensive tackles.
Yeah.
That needs to be the pick.
100%. Moving into the next topic, Tom. So, who takes a pay cut next? All right. The 49ers have a loaded roster, but the salary cap is always looming, with stars like Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and Brandon Ayuk eating up significant cap space. One of them may need to restructure or take a pay cut to keep the roster competitive. Who is the most likely candidate and why? I brought this up because I just see a track. The Niners will pay you. They'll pay you what you're worth at the moment. They'll fight you tooth and nail. All right. And it'll be down to the bitter end when they do pay you, but they will pay you. But one thing that they also are known for is restructuring or asking your ass to take a pay cut or get cut. That is the Niner way. And I understand that there's a lot of bad contracts on this team as far as age, utilization, right? I don't even know if we're going to get Trent back for the rest of the season. Kyle just reported that Trent Williams is working his way back. CMC's done for the year. Brandon Ayuk is done for the year. Deebo Samuel is done for the year. He's Tyshawn now, so he's done. But the truth is that I feel as though that the Niners have, as an organization, I know we love the players, but they're independent contractors. It's about us. And in the spirit of that thought, I think that we can use this season to lean on a couple of these guys to come back to the table and say, hey, man, you're not, we forecasted you out to be at least what you were when you got signed. You're not even that now. Okay. When you can't even make it through the season, and now we're trying to hope that you being off and down for a whole year, recouping or trying to recover for in some way, you're going to be the same player or better for us. That's not going to happen, right? We did you a solid when you wanted to get your money. All right. You snatched the rug out from under us right when you got out of guaranteed money. And when it was good for us, you said, no, I want to get paid more guaranteed money. And we gave it to you. Okay. So you sprung up on us and we obliged. Now, with your cachet, knowing that we want to take you down, give you a haircut. Let's trim across the board. All right. But like, we want to take you down maybe 10 to 15% to help out this cap to kind of supplant what you're leaving us in the lack of production. Right. Let's have this conversation now, or you can get cut and then go fend for yourself, then go to a team where you won't get paid the money that you're going to get paid, because now you're back on the open market. So what do you want to do? In my opinion, there's a couple of guys that don't even deserve that conversation. Kyle Juszczyk is one of them. I just think Absolutely. They need to cut bait and just move on. Period. Yeah. They beat me to the punch with Javon Hargraves. Definitely done with that entire experiment. I'm over it. Unfortunately, I believe that sooner or later it's gonna be BA. Once he comes back and we see that, two serious leg injuries. I mean, two serious ligaments in the same knee. You're going to leave much to be desired coming back, and we'll honor 1 year of 30. All right, for you to play out, but moving forward, we got to restructure, man. We're not going to pay you $30 million a year. You're not worth this money. I believe that they're going to have enough to have that conversation with him. They may have this conversation with Trent. Don't look now, but Jalen Moore has been serviceable. Moving forward. Shocking. But you got to call a spade a spade.
True.
Right? And you got to ask yourself, what is Trent going to give us now? So who do you approach? And what realistic conversation do you have with these guys? Or do you think that this entire, notion is just completely far-fetched?
If Kyle remains the de facto GM, it's probably far-fetched. He's not going to cut Deebo and Juszczyk, even though he should. Now, hopefully, they hire somebody that comes in that's an outside GM that doesn't have strings attached and says, you two are dead weight, you're gone. That's what they need. Now, whether the Yorks are willing to do that or not, I'm not sold that they are. So I think what we'll probably see is sort of a compromise. They will convince Juszczyk to retire, because Kyle will say, we're not going to pick up your contract. And Deebo, they're just going to hang on and hope. And then next year, they're going to cut him, but not this year. From a cap perspective, you can say the best thing they can do is to just have next year be the year of absolute pain. And Jesse has mentioned this. He's in the chat. In business school, called Machiavelli, call it the economy of violence. You do everything at once, all the pain, all at once, and it goes over better long term. Mm-hmm. That's what they should do. That's not what they will do, because Kyle has to play for his contract. He's going to be in the hot seat next year after missing the playoffs. He's not going to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to take all these dead cap hits this year and this year alone so that we can recover and get back to being a good playoff team in the years following. I don't think Kyle's willing to do that. It's another reason why you hire an outside GM. Everything keeps pointing to that, but whether the Yorks are willing, we'll see. I'm not sold that he's willing to. In terms of who else can take a pay cut, I think part of what's going to happen is that Fred and Kittle are going to ask for their McCaffrey extensions. And in so doing, their cap hit for next year will go way down in restructuring their deals. And that's how the Niners are going to save money.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll tell you right now, I believe that that's more of what the Niners will do. I love Jesse's take on the Niners basically just ripping the Band-Aid off, so to speak, and just saying, hey, we got to be able to get this done. Let's go ahead and just take all of the cap hits now. Let's take all of the dead money now. We already have Eric Armstead's post-June cap hit coming. Look, it's crazy. I believe that there's a lot of ways that the Niners could kind of get over this, because really it's going to be a slow drip. If they don't do it now, they have to do something drastic. And I believe that that's kind of where Jesse was coming from with his take. I believe that where Jesse was coming from with his take. But I do believe that they need to have these conversations with these guys. I don't know if it's all of them, but they need to.
Yeah. Well, the answer to all of this is hiring an outside GM. That's how you solve all of this. But I don't think they will. And so if they don't, then there's probably going to be compromises. I think that Juice will be a liability and he'll be gone, but Deebo won't, even though he should, as we just saw from last night. Part of the way that you protect Kyle from himself is you get rid of Deebo to not allow him to do that. That needs to be part of their thinking. I don't know if it is. And so we'll see what they do. But my expectation is that we can come up with a giant list that's really long of here's all the stuff they have to do. And then we get to what they actually are willing to do, and it can fit in a postcard. I think that's what we're looking
at. Look, it's crazy. But if they don't do this, it's going to happen. We're going to go through like a slow, long, arduous process. It's going to be painful. Getting rid of all of this dead cap money. Every year we're going to be hit with tons of void years from a lot of these players. That's why I believe that the reason why I raise this conversation, because I do believe that we feel this way about a lot of guys moving forward, where we've looked at contracts and said, oh man, how's this going to work out? Then all of a sudden it's like, hey man, the Niners just went and talked to this guy, sat him down, had the conversation like men, and they were able to move forward and get it done. You look at a lot of situations like that with the Niners. And for me, I kind of I think that's going to happen, Tom. I really do. I just don't. I believe that they've made these deals with these guys with context that's not in black and white, right? Like the contract says X, but there's a context of, you do know that we're going to come back and ask you to restructure if you start dipping in performance. So we're happy about this. I'm proud of you, but do understand that, hey, if we're not getting what we need, there's a conversation to be had.
Absolutely. They need to have that flexibility. Whether they are willing to act on that is up to the Yorks, Kyle, and Lynch.
Well, you said one thing that I wanted to kind of ask you about. You said they need to hire an outside GM. What do you mean by that?
Literally, that you need to hire someone outside the organization to be the GM. So I've floated this in my columns before, that the assistant GM in Detroit, Ray Agnew, he has learned at the foot of Brad Holmes, the best talent evaluator in the league for the last 4 years. Bring in Agnew and have him be the voice in the vision of the team. He's the architect. The problem with this team, in part, is that they've got two guys trying to build a house and they get dyslexic. You have to have a single vision, and you have to have that single person accountable, and that person has to have distance from the players. Part of the problem is that Kyle, with the Cabo clique and befriending the players, has made it difficult for himself to move on from Deebo and Kyle Juszczyk. So you need an outside GM to do that. In addition, you need an outside GM that's actually going to build a team. If Kyle is still the GM, his vision is going to be, well, I want to use the offensive line to the right of Trent as a cost saving center. So I'm not going to spend money in free agency on that. And I'm not going to use early draft picks on that. And so your offensive line isn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But next year, you can have three great running backs in McCaffrey, Mason, and Garendo. And if you invest in the line, you could just say, okay, guys, go to work and just rotate them, and you can run over the league. But is Kyle willing to do that? No. Kyle, the GM, is not willing to do that. Kyle, the coach, is not willing to do that. And that's something the Niners need to address. That's something they need to look at. Is that what's the baggage that comes from having Kyle being the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost of this organization? You can't have offensive coordinator, head coach, and GM and one guy when that one guy isn't willing to learn and adjust. He's willing to only do what he believes in. You know, if that guy is steadfast and stubborn, you're locked into the path that he chooses for the team. And the weaknesses that he has will remain weaknesses because he refuses to address them. That's the problem. That's why I think they need to get an outside GM.
Tom, that was fire. That was fire. Let's get into our next topic, man. So, it's time, man. The Brock Purdy contract conundrum. As you know, we kind of get into quarterback on this channel. You know, we talk about it, but I'm not necessarily a quarterback guy. I think the Brock Purdy conversation is kind of toxic, so I stay away from it. I really do. But he still is the number one guy, and we should be able to talk about him because he is our quarterback. So let's get into it. Brock Purdy has shown both highs and lows this season, making his future contract a tricky question. Should the 49ers extend him this offseason or wait? If they do pay him now, what kind of range makes sense based on his current performance and market trends? So for me, we've all heard, come on, man, we've all heard it. Let's talk about it. We've talked about the Baker deal. Okay, everybody's talking, but you know that's juxtaposed off of the $60 million. Like that's kind of like if you look at it as the max of what he could get. So basically, the real question is, we could go numbers, right, and talk about the Geno Smith deal. All right, we could talk about the Ryan Tannehill deal in 2019. Bring up the Nick Foles deal. You know, we could talk about a lot of different things, but for me. The real question is that what these deals signify, right? The $60 million deal signifies we think the best of Brock. We believe that he is an elite quarterback. What he gives us is exactly what he can do, right? This is what we need. And any other deal under that kind of still leaves the question out there. Is he what fans think he is? Is he a franchise quarterback that the Niners really believe in him? And I just feel as though that around that question, you got to understand that the latter is always going to be the case because there's only about 3 to 4 guys that are considered $60 million a year quarterbacks, right? And we all know them very well. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, who else? Maybe Joe Burrow, right? Outside of that, it's a crapshoot. You could say Justin Herbert, but then you can go to his resume, right? You could say CJ Stroud, but then you could say he's too young. He hasn't done anything. You know, you could say Aaron Rodgers. There's so many other guys, but I just feel as though that the conversation inevitably goes into the sky once you get past the top 3 to 4 guys in the league. In my opinion, the money that Brock Purdy is should be getting paid, or potentially could get paid, rather, the $60 million price tag. In my opinion, I just think that I look at his money juxtaposed to how we're going to be able to operate and put a team around him, right? And that's where I'm out. I don't believe that we should be able to spend, or we should have to spend that much money on a quarterback who hasn't shown that he doesn't need the weapons that he would lose when he gets that money. What do you say, Tom?
I agree with all of that. You look at Purdy's record outside of peak McCaffrey healthy, he's 500. And so you're getting a 500 quarterback. But you're also getting a quarterback that got the team to the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship and won. So
Mm-hmm.
he's had some success. He is a competitor, but at the same time, he's small. He can get hurt. His arm strength isn't good enough, and he can't play in the rain. And that's a real problem when you look at the NFC and you've got Seattle, Green Bay, Washington, Philadelphia, places where it's going to rain on you in playoff games. And for that matter, Santa Clara. And so he has to overcome the rain thing right away. He
Mm-hmm.
has to get his mechanics better. He improved his mechanics coming out of Iowa State. He worked on, sort of the torque that he gets out of his hips, and that improved his velocity, and that's what made him the quarterback he now is. He needs to go back to that and find some more velocity. He's got to get a much better velocity on the ball. He's got to get more zip. Because you look at the passes last night where you had open receivers for touchdowns, you missed them. How much of that is elbow? How much of that is shoulder? How much of that is long term as a result of Purdy being small? All of that has to factor in. Should they wait? Yeah. Will they wait? No. And I think that we talked about this a couple weeks ago, where I said that this isn't just football. For the Niners, this is business. They want Purdy to be the face of the franchise. And if you're a young kid that's playing quarterback and you're going to play a quarterback for a long time, it's a smart business investment for the Niners. I think that's factoring into their decision here. They want Purdy locked in because they want to market him. They want him to be
Mm-hmm.
the face of the franchise. Kittle's 31. McCaffrey's 29. They need a new guy. They decided Brock's it. Brock comes out of central casting. Boom. This kid's perfect. He's exactly what we would want. And I understand that from a business perspective. But the problem with the Yorks is that they value money over football. And so you look at Brock and you say, from a football perspective, can you win the January games if you don't overcome the rain problem? Can you prove to us that you can overcome your tendency to throw picks when you make poor decisions? You can look at it and say the Jennings interception was repeated earlier this year. It's the same play. Brock needs to learn from his mistakes. He's not. He's repeating the same mistakes on loop. That's an issue. Then you get to the money. Some people are saying, okay, between Baker Mayfield's money is 35 and Dak is 60, and you compromise in between in the high 40s to 50. The problem with all of that, and my apologies for the term, but I'm going to trademark it anyway. If the Niners pay Purdy too much, they will go into purgatory. They will be they will be they will be in nowhere because they won't have the money they need to spend around Purdy to be able to contend. And part of the problem in that you've had Purdy so cheap for so long is that you've developed habits of spending based on Purdy not getting paid. And now you have to adjust, and that adjustment period won't be easy. That's what
Yeah.
they're going to have to face in this offseason. So yeah, if Purdy goes over 50, I think they'll go into purgatory, and they won't win.
Well, I don't think they will. In my opinion, I think the only thing that could threaten Brock getting paid anything north of 50 is the affinity that the Yorks have for him. And good on him. I think that they do love the kid. I think they love his character. He's an amazing guy to put in the front of your organization. God-fearing young man, hard worker, always puts himself first. Always puts the team before himself. How can I say this? This isn't a league full of nice guys, man. And you got to bring it. And I don't want to get caught up in paying Brock because of the romanticized love story of him coming in and kind of saving us, helping out our season, giving us more efficiency than we had seen out of Jimmy Garoppolo for a long time. But in my opinion, from what I've seen from Brock just consistently, oh man, Brock's a starter, and I'm stopping it right there. He's a starter in the league, but franchise quarterback, next level quarterback, elite quarterback, comparing his stats to some of the best guys out there. I mean, come on, man. Like, stop.
Yeah,
You know,
he's not that guy.
nah.
And so the question becomes, if if Brock needs the Avengers, to borrow from Nick Wright's argument, if he needs the Avengers to succeed and you don't have the money to pay the Avengers, how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate question. But my bigger concern with Brock is not learning from his mistakes. That has to stop. And the
Yeah.
rain thing has to stop. So beyond the money, he has to improve his game. He has to fix those mistakes. He's yet to do so, and we're in year 2. That worries me. In
Well,
terms of the money, yeah, it should be around 35, 40, but I would expect that it's more like 40 to 50. And part of that is that the Yorks want to make him face of the franchise. And part of that is Kyle is going to want to take care of Brock. Brock saved Kyle's job.
mm-hmm. Look, he did. In this, and what's hilarious is that the very next comment that I was going to make right after you said that that Brock saves Kyle's job, is that I feel like Brock is trying to I feel like Kyle is trying to, in some instances, help Brock lose his. I mean, Kyle really doesn't call a lot for Brock. It's all about what Kyle wants to do. He really doesn't shelter the kid at all. It puts him at empty in the red zone. We've spent up until this last maybe 2 to 3 weeks, we've spent damn near the entire offense in gun. It's like, what is he doing? He's not protecting Brock at all. We're putting him under center, helping out the run game. If you look at just how much, I haven't seen the numbers, and this will probably prove my point even more because I haven't seen the numbers. But I would be shocked if Brock's attempts per game weren't up from last year. Like, he's throwing the ball a lot. Kyle is really putting him in a lot of tough situations, and I don't think that Kyle has necessarily been doing a good job of protecting him either. And in some ways, I feel like it's on purpose. I feel like Kyle wants it to be known, like, oh well, I got to get a new guy. This isn't my guy.
Who's going to trust Kyle to have another swing at a quarterback, though? I think even the Yorks would draw a line on that and say, enough already.
Definitely.
It would be time to move on.
100%.
I think this is Kyle's last attempt, last swing, and we'll see. But yeah, they have to figure this out. And I think that because the Yorks want Brock as the face of the franchise, they're going to take care of it. That we can argue from a football perspective, they should wait a year, but I don't think they will. And Jed has hinted in the past that he wants to take care of Brock. And I think this is part of why, is that the business side of all of this is going to push the timing to this offseason.
Hey, it is what it is. Tom, what you got cooking for tomorrow?
Maybe I'm doing a stream with Ashley. We had internet problems this week, so we might be doing something on Monday. I've got some new articles I'm working on where it's basically what's the Niners' biggest problem right now? Poor decision making. And it goes throughout the entire organization, and it goes to the field. It's everywhere, and they need to fix that. It's part of the argument, again, for a need for some outside people, because what they've got right now, they're not making enough good decisions to get the Niners to a championship.
Tom, you're my guy. You're my man, 10 grand. Tomorrow we got the call-in show and the coaches meeting. So we're going to do the coaches meeting probably at noon. Grant's going to be hosting it, but we're still going to be dual streaming from the coaches huddle. So you guys can swing over here, my people, and watch from our side. And then we've got the call-in show. We missed last week, but this week we have the call-in show. I know there are tons of you that want to get it off your chest. Dre, I need you in here. Roscoe needs to come in here. The Deebo defender is going to come in here for the call-in show tomorrow. Tom, I love you, man. We had another great one in the books. Talk to you later, boss.
Absolutely, Coach. Take care, man.
Hey, this is the coach. Stay low and keep your feet moving. Talk to you guys.